Dianne is a retired educator who believes a belly laugh a day keeps the psychiatrist away. Her book, Chalk Dust, Memoirs of a Prairie Teacher, has its genesis in the many humorous anecdotes she collected during her career, and it's been a very successful book. She, together with Victor Borga, believe laughter is the closest distance between two people. Dianne will be reading, In My Defense, I Was Left Unsupervised.
Okay, this is my principal's voice, by the way, so hopefully everyone will be able to hear. Thank you all for coming. This is great. I'm particularly happy to welcome my own little cheer team that came with me today, and I hope you enjoy what we have for you. Oh, come on, Dad. Tell me again about your night alone in the blizzard. Tony and Jennifer, cozy in their pajamas, sprawl on the rug in front of the fire, nibbling goldfish crackers. They pester me for this story every time there's a snowstorm and can easily tell it themselves. They've heard it so many times. I sigh, put aside my newspaper, and lean back in my recliner. Well, as you remember, my mom had left a note on the kitchen table. Now, I'm going to just give you some background because this is way too long for me to read the whole thing. Thomas is Dad, and his parents had just begun to allow him at age 10 to be alone in their farmhouse for an hour or two between coming home on the bus and when his mom and dad would get home from work. So this day, the school buses are sent home early because of a snowstorm. Mom and Dad get storm stayed in town, so Thomas and his dog Patches are alone. Before going out to move the horses into the barn, Thomas sets the microwave to defrost pork chops because he's watched Mom make supper. How hard can it be? After a scary adventure rescuing the horses, they return to the house. So, back into the story. As soon as I opened the kitchen door, I knew I had a problem. Jennifer holds her nose and Tony pretends to gag, which they always do at this point in the story. It was like someone slapped me in the face with a dead possum. What's that smell? I rushed to the microwave. It showed 92 minutes left on the timer. I must have set it for 200 instead of 20. I punched cancel and opened the door. The meat package was soggy and the partially cooked goop inside had soaked through and leaked all over the turntable. What was left of my lunch nearly came up. Even Patches whined and backed up against the door. By now, Tony and Jen are rolling on their backs, holding their stomachs and roaring in delight at my misfortune. I had to get rid of the putrid mess, so I threw off my jacket and rummaged for some plastic bags in the pantry. I managed to scoop up most of the stinky stuff and throw it in the garbage can under the sink. Not the best idea, I discovered the next day. I realized I was using one of Mom's good washcloths to wipe the turntable, so I dumped it into the clothes hamper by the washing machine. Another bad idea. The kitchen still smelled like roadkill, but it was too stormy to open windows, so I sprayed half a can of Mom's air freshener in huge circles all around the kitchen. By now, Patches was sitting beside the cupboard that held her dog food, wondering if I'd ever get to her. In about 30 seconds, she inhaled her supper time scoop of kibbles. Even though I was pretty turned off eating, my empty stomach complained. So I unwrapped the after-school snack Mom had left in the fridge, poured a glass of milk, and moved into the living room, putting some distance between the pork chop puke and me. We weren't supposed to eat in the living room, but I figured this was an exception. I could be careful. As I nibbled on grapes, I turned on the TV. Snow. Great. Snow inside and outside. The storm must be blocking the TV dish. Now the quiet of the house began to close in on me like bars of a jail cell. I could hear the wind whipping against the walls, outside walls, and see how snow had plastered itself against the east windows. One muffin disappeared even faster than Patch's kibbles. I slowed down on the second one, but halfway through, realized my nose was cold. The furnace wasn't running. "Wait, Dad," interrupts Jen. "I need a blanket. Could you put another log on the fire?" "Be careful," she grins, wagging her finger at me. Another log, kids wrapped in blankets. My tale of catastrophe continues. I turned up the thermostat, but nothing happened. The basement was spooky at the best of times, but more so with a big empty house over my head. Staring at the furnace didn't help, so I whacked the side of it with my hand. Nothing. I tried kicking. That worked on the vending machine at the food court. I only succeeded in putting a dent in the metal. "What next?" I yelled at the house, the storm, the microwave, the phone, the TV, the horses, even Patches. I slid to the floor, fists clenched, and cried. Patches whimpered. Well, eventually my hissy fit passed, and I had an idea. I'd start a fire. "Uh-oh," says Tony, "we know this doesn't end well." "Well, of course you know. You've heard the story 100 times," I say. "Now let me finish. It's past your bedtime." I'd watched Mom and Dad build fires, and it looked easy. Dad had left kindling and a supply of birch logs in the big tub beside the fireplace. So after grabbing some newspaper from the recycling, I set to work building a log cabin affair over a base of scrunched paper. I believed my construction rated an A+, so I got matches from Mom's antique tin box on the mantel. If ever there was a time to play with matches, this was it. Soon the kindling was crackling, and I was pretty pleased with myself. I was still hungry, so figured I'd scavenge for leftovers in the fridge. I was halfway through making a ham sandwich and gagging on the rotten meat scented air freshener when the smoke detector blared behind my back. Jen and Tony giggle and shake their heads, as they always do. I jumped like I'd been poked in the butt with a wiener stick, dropped my knife, and ran into the living room. Smoke billowed from the fireplace, and Patches was barking, suggesting her idiot master do something. What did I do wrong? I gawked at the growing cloud as the detector screamed on. All I could think was, Mom and Dad will kill me if I burn the house down. Finally, I remembered the damper. Stupid. By now, my eyes were watering and throat stinging, but I fumbled for the damper switch and managed to turn it left. Dad always said, right tight, left loose. I coughed into my sleeve, relieved when the smoke began to rise up the chimney where it belonged. I sprawled on the couch, panic subsiding, but jumped up when the dying flames needed to be coaxed back to life. Naturally, I knocked over my glass of milk. Can anything else go wrong? I muttered to Patches, who was waiting by the back door. Traitor, you'd rather be out in the storm than in the house with me. The next morning, Patches and I were cuddled in a sleeping bag in front of the fireplace when Mom and Dad burst in. Thomas, we're home, they called. I got the tightest hugs ever, until their noses informed them not all was quite as they left it. I had a long story to tell, but in the end I said, I pause, and as always, Tony and Jen sit up and chime in unison. In my defense, I was left unsupervised.